Bonjour tout le monde. Pour ceux et celles qui viennent de se joindre à nous, je prends le temps de me
Hello,
présenter.
all. For those who just joined us, I will present myself, Frédéric Lachapelle, secondary school adaptation teacher at Anjou Secondary School, and I'm very happy to be here. One of the key measures of the digital education plan is the deployment in the schools of Quebec of an evolutionary service offer for teaching and support staff in terms of digital teaching, adapting itself in function of the needs of this environment. Three partners of the ministry work in a complementary way to meet the needs expressed by actors in this environment. Frame 21, Cadre21, Learn, and RÉCIT. I'll be honest with you. Before preparing myself for this morning's presentation, I didn't know these partners very much or their service offered. And while I was speaking to them, I understood the depth and richness of the contents offered. Whether you're an experienced teacher such as myself, a new actor, or a future teacher, you will certainly find something relevant to your path. Don't hesitate to ask questions with the Q&A tool. There will be a question period at the end of these discussions. I'm very happy to present the representatives of these three partners of the Digital Action Plan. And connected to self-training, Maxime Péchat from Cadre21, Stéphane Lavoie from Campus RÉCIT, and Kristen Truesdale from Learn. They will speak one after another to present their organization and their mission. Let's start with Mr. Maxime Péchat, representing Cadre21. Thank you, Frédéric. I'm very happy to be among you. Thank you to all those joining us at home from school. I will present Cadre21. For those who don't know as well, Cadre21 is an acronym, the Center of Movement Development and Education Research for the 21st century. It was launched a while back, and the mission turns around three main elements: the mission of professional development in education, support for education research, and of course, which is what interests us a little more today, offering opportunities for continuous training online. We have a learning platform with 25, almost 30 self-training tools, which were developed over the years with many specialized partners who allowed us, really supported us to build these self-training tools. They have four principal axes, plus a more specific offer with some particular partners. These self-training tools are, before anything else, flexible, free for all school staff in Quebec. There's no deadline when we start a self-training module, and there's a path which leads us to recapitulate what we retain and what we should put into action from this training. There is feedback which is offered by our staff and allow you to integrate all that into digital certification, which allows you to have some certification of your training. Thank you, Maxime. I'm very happy to be here today. I'm Stéphane Lavoie. I'm a teaching advisor. I have been for a few years with RÉCIT since 2006. What is RÉCIT? It is also an acronym. We see many acronyms in our environment. RÉCIT was created around 2000, 2001. It's the network for development of student skills with technology integration. Around 2003, we decided to start using the acronym with keywords that are a little more connected to our mission: network, education, collaboration, innovation, and technology. We're around 260 advisors all around the province who have this RÉCIT identification, and our mission is to support teachers in the integration of technologies in class. Often RÉCIT, it's unclear for people who we are, what we do. we're employees for school service centers. There are 3 types of services. The first is the coordination service with the Ministry of Education. There are a few people with the Ministry of Education coordinating the network's activities. I'm starting at the bottom. 14 national services who offer according to the type of client or according to the set field of study. They might be specialists of one subject in particular. We have RÉCIT Social Universe, RÉCIT Social Adaptation. So we have around 60% people at the national level. We have the regional services, and their duty is to help teachers with general formation of adults. So we have 60 local services in each of the school boards, where we'll have counselors who can accompany you and help you integrate technologies in the classroom. So all these people work together to help you integrate technology in the classroom. And I have the privilege of taking care of Campus RÉCIT, which is kind of the platform where all these people come together and put training modules online to help you integrate technologies in the classroom. Does that make some sense? All right, I will let Christine explain her role. Thank you, Stéphane. LEARN is also an acronym for Leading English Education and Resource Network. We are a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2005 to meet the needs of the Anglophone school board network. We serve the 9 Anglophone school boards, the school boards with particular status, and the Anglophone private schools. We are funded by the Quebec-Canada Agreement on Minority Language Teaching and on Second Language Teaching, and also the Office for Teaching Digital Resources. We also have the mission to be the national service for the Anglophone communities for the youth sector. We have 3 principal teams with LEARN. There's the virtual campus team, which takes care of online tutoring for Anglophone students, of coordination of online courses for the Anglophone sector. And we also develop resources for students online. We also have a team that works with the community school centers. There are around 80 schools, which are considered community school centers that have partnerships with communities to support parents or families that attend these schools, and the teaching services team, and I'm the director of this team with LEARN. Our mission is to create resources to support the training program, whether these be integration of, whether these involve integration of technology or not. And this is for preschool and kindergarten, primary and secondary school. We publish a blog, we do podcasts, we work in partnership with the school boards and offer training to teachers. And also with the students. So this is more or less our mission. We're part of the RÉCIT network. That was the case even before the creation of the LEARN network. So it's been around 20 years. Thank you to all 3 of you. Thanks to what you've presented, it'll be much easier for all the participants to identify the resources corresponding to their needs and intention. If you've already looked at the Cadre21, LEARN, or RÉCIT websites, you have no doubt noticed that there is a very varied and abundant training offer, which makes it more difficult perhaps to know where to start. Therefore, the representatives will use examples to explain the structure of their service offer. So let's start with Mrs. Christine Truesdale, LEARN representative. I'll give you a little example of something we can find on the Learn website, learn.quebec.ca or learnquebec.ca. It's a teaching module for the social sciences dimension. It's centered around skill development for the secondary school level. There's also an equivalent for the primary school level. It's to help teachers. Throughout this process, there was a webinar that was recorded to explain the resources. There are videos to explain the steps of this training module, and there are tools for teachers who want to use this along with their students. So this is an example of a subject matter training module that we offer. Training can also be used in school boards. By school boards, it can be used by teachers who want to visit the website, and we also offer real-time form trainings to support the teachers. That's the first example. Here, I'll give you an example of training which is more centered on use of and integration of technology. We experimented a lot with the Microbit, which you see here. It's a tool which is part of the equipment we can buy for robotics, for creative labs. And we experimented a lot with this tool at the primary and secondary levels. Last year also, we experimented online with this tool. Every student had their own Microbit, and we went through many different projects over a few years. And this year we launched a course which is more integrated, and currently our trainers are doing a workshop precisely on these modules. So that's the long and short of it. I'll give you another example now. We have another site, Digital Competence in Action, and there you can find videos or modules which can be used by teachers to give examples of the sorts of challenges that can be attempted within a creative lab situation. Example of a webinar created by one of our mathematics teachers with tools that Graspable Math, which is a tool that can be used online or in class. And we have the example of a podcast, which is another example of a potential teaching tool. So these are our three examples. Thank you, Christine. I suppose it's my turn. So I will explain a little bit what are the types of trainings we offer with Campus RÉCIT. It's campus.récit.qc.ca. And when we end up on Campus RÉCIT, we see this self-study tab. There are around 100 self-study tools that we offer. And each school board has it, or each national office has its own space to integrate its own teaching modules. So these national services each have their space to create new training tools. We have two examples. We have the mathematics, science, and technology. They created a little module on Minecraft. It's an interesting product to use with students. Social sciences, the languages team created a training tool for language competence. Very interesting. So many training tools created by the national units for teachers or even for school managers, always connected somehow to integration of digital technology in class. Always self-study tools that you sign up for, and you do it at your own pace, according to your needs, according to the skills you want to develop. Second example, these are the national services, the national units, which decided within their course category what they wanted to develop. So the course services had a somewhat different mission. When I am working with a teacher in their classroom, they'll have some down-to-earth needs. I want to use Teams. I want to be able to use Moodle. I want to know how to use Canva. So often it's about learning how to use different types of software. And there are self-study modules offered by these local services for these ends. Sometimes the local services say our teachers have this or that need. And you have 3 examples of self-study tools: teaching with Microsoft Teams, teaching with Moodle, or using iPads. These self-study tools are there to help you master a tool or a technology in particular, always with the goal of using it in class. But you decide at what pace you want to go through this training, and you don't have to go all the way to the end. You just do it at your own pace according to your needs. I also wanted to talk about webinars and another type of training we offer. So we're around 200 counselors, and as on top of the self-study tools, we offer regular webinars. All my colleagues have the habit of registering the webinars they want to offer in the Campus RÉCIT calendars. So there's a tab here, Webinaire, and you'll see the list of the webinars or the training modules offered over video conference. We also offered in the past, 2-3 years ago, we were offering hybrid training modules. So you sign up for a training tool which has a precise deadline and which has both webinar and self-study components. So that more or less goes through the types of training tools we offer through Campus RÉCIT. And now I would let Maxime explain his service offer. Thank you, Stéphane. I had forgotten to officially pass you the microphone earlier. Thank you for giving us the good example for there to be fluidity for the people listening to us. On my end with Cadre21, I have a slide here with the sample of our service offer. We have some 30 training tools which are offered for all school staff. And what we present, as was presented by my 2 colleagues earlier, we want to offer complementary service offer. These self-study tools are not they're not linked to a particular domain of study. We're here to complement the already fantastic service offer for school staff. We have transversal, integrated training modules which can help people teaching preschools just as people teaching adults. So what resources can help you in your own work with your students? This service offer has 4 principal axes. Digital competence, which is maybe connected a little more to what we're explaining today. You have a few examples which are broadcasted there, but also teaching support, where digital is a tool among others to help you attain your goals of better accompanying your students. We have a brand new axis, which is learning from home, and that I will explain a little more in depth. And if you want to explore the service offer, I invite you to go to the website cadre21.org/PAN, P-A-N, and you'll go to the specific portal for Quebec school personnel. And you just have to create an account with your institutional email address, and our system will automatically recognize that you are part of school personnel in Quebec. It's a flexible service offer where this is purely self-study, so you proceed at your own pace. You decide how you want to take advantage of these resources, and we invite you to go all the way to the end because there are some kind of certifications, and we offer you feedback with personalized emails from a member of our staff. So you can really be sure that you had an external and benevolent feedback, something that will be useful in helping you continue with your work. I will explain our model a little more because it's a little slightly different from the other two. We have 4 levels of integration. The first is called Explorer, and we invite you to discover and familiarize yourself with the subject in particular that you want to develop a little more, and that corresponds to the reality of your needs and those of your students. The other levels are really integration levels. So in Explorer, we ask you mainly to think and to think about what could be useful to you in your practice, what could help your student. Whereas in the other 3 levels, we invite you to try and to experiment. We heard in the opening conference that we shouldn't be afraid of trying out, of experimenting. So we're inviting you to experiment and to explain these attempts at integration. And we have more and more involved degrees of integration with each level: architect, virtuoso, which is part of my annual practice, and innovator, which is really the ultimate level for now. And we're proposing you're at the level of proposing a workshop during this conference, for example. So I want to explain this new axis, which is e-learning, that we developed in collaboration with learning specialists working with FADIO, which is also an acronym. You see the complete name on the screen. We developed with them over the last few months 5 subjects which are specific to e-learning, but for having worked on this myself, we see there are so many ties, so many potential connections with in-classroom teaching where digital tools are nonetheless integrated. So there's grading, but also active pedagogy, which must happen with e-learning. And in the classroom, we have pedagogical scenarios, which we're still developing, and also student experience, which we are also developing. So we have resources that are inter-order, that are transversal, which allow you to look for the elements which are most relevant to you in your practice for your students. Thank you. It's always very interesting to listen to you. And I'm still learning more about the structure of this training and all the services that are available for school staff in Quebec. So maybe you'll recognize yourself in what I'm about to say. Often we start the school year with all these intentions, but my priorities change over the year, and I dedicate most of my energies to supporting students rather than to self-study and to professional development, which is put off until later. Dear representatives, what are your suggestions for integrating these professional development throughout the school year? So I will ask Maxime Pelchat to answer first. Yes, Frederic, it's a question we hear very often and which corresponds to the reality on the ground. Throughout a teacher's day, we have enough on our plate to keep us busy. And in the background, we can still have this desire, especially at the beginning of the year. I think it was explained very well, these good intentions. So I think it starts first with asking ourselves, what do we need personally? What do I want to improve concretely? It doesn't have to be something very broad, it can be very precise. And we saw in the complementarity of this morning service offer how there are different ways to approach this. Is it a matter of new tools that we want to integrate of new subject matter that we want to communicate in a more effective and stimulating way? Is it something a little broader? Because it can be a matter of wanting to support our learners in a more efficient way. So it starts with these considerations. And of course, we can always ask ourselves, is there a fantastic tool that would allow me to answer 3 or 4 questions at once? Rarely, if ever. And I see that there are many actors in education that want to develop such tools, and certainly there will be interesting things coming down the pipeline. But if we want to start somewhere, and if we were asking ourselves throughout all these ecosystem of resources, it's like a buffet. There are so many choices, and we ask ourselves, well, where should I start? So maybe go through the principal references that have come out in the last 2 or 3 years. I think about those, especially on teacher aptitudes, which came out about a year ago, and which explains very specific element of a teacher's practice. In field 1, we talk about skills such as planning, teaching situations, implementing teaching situations, classroom management. So these are doorways which allowed us to ask ourselves the initial question, what is most relevant to me and to my students? And we could always do the same thing with the digital competence reference framework, which allows us to ask, what is the point of entry, which of course I have vague but benevolent intentions. What would allow me to have a more precise plan? I want my students to collaborate a little more, what will perhaps allow me to make my intentions a little more precise instead of staying with these very broad intentions.
J'ajouterais quelque chose parce qu'au lieu de rester à l'état individuel, on est souvent en train d'enseigner en équipe cycle, en équipe. Et donc, posez-vous la question en équipe, c'est quoi que vous voulez développer en tant qu'équipe cycle? Puis, faites-vous un plan de match? Parce que c'est sûr qu'on peut se développer personnellement. Puis souvent, quand on fait ça personnellement, on s'en met plein, là, on veut tout faire en même temps, puis sans doute que ce n'est pas la bonne approche. C'est comme quand on prend une résolution en début d'année, qu'on veut aller au gym, là, que ça dure 1 mois, puis après ça, on arrête. Ben, la même chose qu'il faut faire, il faut se dire, on y va petit, on cible une compétence, l'approche des compétences, je l'aime bien, Maxime, là, je disais, on cible 1 ou 2 compétences, on fait ça en équipe, puis on est plusieurs à s'encourager, puis à réfléchir ensemble, être un praticien réflexif, puis se dire, ben, qu'est-ce qui va bien, qu'est-ce qui ne va pas bien, qu'est-ce que je dois améliorer. C'est à la base là, de la formation continue qu'on va pouvoir faire.
Je rajouterais aussi que si c'est pour l'intégration des technologies, bien, on peut aussi faire de l'expérimentation avec les élèves. Alors, pas attendre de tout savoir avant de se lancer avec les élèves, de les laisser aller aussi, parce que souvent, ils vont avoir aussi des intérêts, des compétences, puis on peut aller chercher avec les élèves des façons d'aller vraiment expérimenter. Alors, de ne pas trop attendre de tout savoir, de faire des petits pas, mais de laisser aussi la chance aux élèves de faire de l'expérimentation, parce que si on attend d'être tellement confortable puis de tout savoir, ben, on verrait en classe. Alors, c'est important de faire des petits pas, puis de faire vraiment de l'expérimentation en classe, parce que la compétence, c'est le savoir agir, puis le savoir-faire aussi. Alors, il faut le faire. Et puis, savoir, comme vous avez dit, là, une posture d'apprenant et une posture réflexive. Alors, comment ça s'est passé? Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire? Où est-ce qu'on peut aller plus loin?
Oui, c'est ça. On n'a pas besoin d'être l'expert. Excuse-moi, Frédéric. On n'a pas besoin d'être l'expert. On est enseignant, oui, mais on est l'accompagnateur. On n'est pas celui qui connaît tout. C'est correct d'avoir une posture d'apprenant et d'apprendre avec les élèves.
C'est ça. L'important, c'est d'avoir une intention pédagogique. C'est ça le rôle du prof. Puis aussi de partir des besoins des élèves.
Mais justement, en tant qu'enseignante, je connais quand même les besoins du milieu au niveau du personnel enseignant. On sait qu'il y a quand même des gros
Yes,
manques.
indeed. As a teacher, we know that there is a great lack with the teaching staff. If I cannot make myself available for one day or even for a few hours, how can I still get involved in my personal professional development? Of course, some will say you have to do this in the evening or in the weekend. I know Patrick forbade us to say that. I think that one of the key elements to be able to develop ourselves professionally is really to plan our schedule, is to say in my weekly schedule, I agree with the direction or with the head office that I will take this specific period to do this type of professional development. No matter which development it is, you must try to fit it in your schedule and plan for it, because if not, you'll never have the time to do it. Yes, I completely agree with Stefan on that. And I would also add, along the lines of what you were saying earlier, Stefan, to not always see it as something that is an individual process, but see it more as a team strategy. So of course, if we take the time to plan and we do those plans with colleagues, we feel more involved. And we feel that there is a dynamic that is coming into place as well. It doesn't have to be something immense, as Christine was saying earlier. It's important to try, not wait till we feel like we're perfect. We can interact with 2 or 3 colleagues and have a team like that and just go ahead and try. Maybe we are still not comfortable or completely comfortable, but at least we have people there with whom we can discuss this. And also at the same time, we can have a discussion period after trying different things. So if we are able to integrate this strategy in our schedule with colleagues, that is the key to making those first steps, because that is the key here. We need to just initiate this and make sure we have enough time and make time for this. Great. Now I would go ahead and ask you another question. It's a few questions. We have a few seconds for that. So now I'm still looking at my situation. I'm an FMS teacher and semi-specialized training. So I was wondering, is there any targeted training for teachers that are not as much represented in the network? For example, on the employment training, like myself, PFAE, or for the WOKP in the Anglophone school system, educational system, and also to help people that are in the professional training. Well, for us, for WOTP, we have a network for practice community for teachers. Sometimes we'll work with them to elaborate targeted training for them. We also have projects with the schools and the ECP to see what we can develop around those programs. So that is what we're doing in the English network. And as Maxime and Stefan have said, there are many interdisciplinary transversal trainings that are also worthwhile for specialized teachers and programs that are not as represented as others. Okay, so to go along with what Christine was saying, on the RÉCIT campus, it's mainly self-studies that are offered. And depending on the international service, there will be a certain offer. So I have colleagues that take care of clienteles. You were speaking of Frédéric. So we do have a category for professional training. We have colleagues taking care of general adult education training. So each colleague is focused on those different types of educational teachers, but we mainly target the biggest clientele, but we do have different offers, for example, for adaptive teacher or FMS teachers and so on. We have a little bit of those as well. And for the Anglophones, we also have colleagues in the EGE and the FT that work with the international offers, and teams are working with them as well. Yeah, all you have to do is raise your hand, make your need known. We need a training on this, and if it doesn't exist, we'll have a discussion and we'll develop one for you. Yes, and we must not forget something, the self-study model, and of course the Cadre21 and RÉCIT campus models are very much based on that. It's self-sufficient and everything is there. So one person that wants to get involved on his own can start from the beginning and be able to go and make it through the end. So auto or self-study, yes, is something that you can do individually, but also we could do it as a team, as we've said earlier. So I think it's important to say it. There is a value in all of these self-study offers, and we can have another process or another plan that is not self-study. We could do it as a team and we can get greater results. And there could be the combining of the training from here, from there, and from there, from different sources. And in the end, we have a complementary training. Great. Thank you, Christine, Maxime, and Stéphane, for your great advice. This is a different way to look at training, and it helps me to integrate this in a more long-term perspective. I understand it's important to have one intention, one goal, and then to plan my development over a few months or even over a year. So with a concluding question, could you describe to us what are the complementary services offered in your different services? So I firstly would like to hear Mr. Stéphane Lavoie from the RÉCIT network. Oh, Mr. Stéphane Lavoie, they call my father that usually. That's my father's name. Okay, so of course, first and foremost, we have the self-study offer. So everyone can go there and pick and choose in the buffet and get the resources they need. But moreover, the fact that the network includes over 268 pedagogical trainers, we can offer extra material. So in each training, there is a gradation level. So we can remit badges depending on where you are at or where you're situated in the training. So you can have a discovery badge in the beginning. Once you are more aware of the subject, we will give out a badge that certifies that you are more aware of the subject or sensitive to the subject. And then there is another badge where you have to submit a proof that you do have the skills and you have experimented the knowledge in class, or that you have produced something that you may have made available to the community. So there are a total of five badges that you can get. So as soon as you submit some work for the obtention of a badge, and there's a colleague that will look over your work and give you feedback. If in your institution, your school institution, together you say, oh, it would be good to have a project with Minecraft, for example, what we could do is we could ask your local RÉCIT counselor to accompany you and coach you during this process within the self-study. So the self-study is a means, it's not an ends per se. It'll help your team work together and learn and become better in the object of your interest. Is that good? Yes, and I would go along the same lines, Stéphane. Indeed, in the self-study model with a recognition through digital badges, it's really interesting that we have traces. It's trackable, and it's interesting for the community as well. Stéphane, you've mentioned this a little bit. It is useful. We were saying we could do it as a team. We can also do it individually as well. It does happen. Some people do feel more lonely or more alone in their practice. So the fact that they can inspire themselves from practices or things and works that have been done previously by other people on the self-study can be encouraging. And those badges are in the portfolio of the students. So when we go on the platform, we have access to everyone else that already have gone through the training and have received the badge or the badges. And it's very trackable. And we as architects of this digital world, we can see what type of projects or elements were deployed, which one did well, which one did not do so well. And that can be very interesting when we want to dive into something that we have never tried before. So this is a community that slowly is building up throughout the months and the years, and that is very interesting. And moreover, I would also add another point here for the complementary services in Cadre21 and Cadre21. Of course, obviously, we give out badges relating to our training, online training, but we also are hosts of digital badges that are giving out to by different organizations that offer online training. So we have said this in the panel before. There is a good offer of service in this panel, but there are many other organizations that offer online training, may it be congresses, webinars, etc. So we are a hub of digital badges, other digital badges that recognize online training. So that can be very interesting to have that you can add on to your online training or ongoing education. So these are concrete actions that are being done with other actors in the same network. So we have a very rich, diversified, and dynamic ecosystem here in Quebec, and I think it's a good way to highlight it with this hub, and I think it can contribute to valorizing or giving value to the profession. So I would say that as a complement to the resources that we have, we offer accompaniment of the school boards, the CCPs, and for professors as well, for teachers as well. So often we have projects where we are able to accompany over a few months or even over a few years, and it's often projects that stems from the field, and we do on-field training as well. So we do offer complementary online resources as well. Sometimes we have professors or teachers that are in very remote regions, and they are the only teacher in their field. So that is a portal where they can exchange and have discussions on their practice and on the concerns and issues. And we also have classes for certain projects that we can elaborate with the ECP. So there are many ways to get accompaniment or coaching. We also offer workshops, online workshops, or in-person workshops that are done live as well. And we also work with the school boards and ECPs to offer disciplinary training and resources, training on our resources as well. So the important resources, that is only one part of the support that we can offer. Well, thanks again. So we will be ending our discussions on that subject with you, that discussion that we had with the partners of the ministry. So now it is your turn, the participants, to contribute and have discussions regarding these workshops. So I remind you that you could use the chat box, the Zoom chat box. So firstly, this is a comment from Madame Truesdale. A participant is thanking you for letting us know. And of course, we do have to give ourselves the right to make mistakes. When we're learning, we make mistakes, and that's how we learn, right? Yeah, we can't just say it. We have to do it as well. We need to modelize it and design it for the students. Yes, and also in the integration of technologies, when we are learning to programming, for example, you're not going to have success on your first try. We need to have a plan of ways we want to do things, and we need to have a strategy. When we're stuck, we need to have a plan B to try to move forward. So we can't be afraid of experimenting and just say whatever happens, happens, and then we find solutions. Yes, and mistakes is such a powerful lever for knowledge. We cannot neglect it. We must make mistakes. Indeed. Yes, and we must also have a plan and also have a mindset where we say, what are we going to do with these mistakes? Rather to get unmotivated, we need to we need to see it as a stepping stone to further learning and looking for more solutions. Yes, indeed. That reminds me of a little word game that I say with my students. I say, usually when we fail, we push. So basically that's a word game saying that when we get on the ground, we grow like a plant. It's a metaphor. So now, Maxime Pelchat, Mr. Maxime Pelchat, are there related costs to the consumption of self-study? No, actually, thanks to our partnership with the ministry, as of 2018, all training on Cadre21 are free of charge for the school staff in Quebec. We are working on improving our platforms. They will be coming up in the next few months to facilitate the user experience. But if you're not using the platform yet, I would suggest that you go and get registered. Look at the registration link if you find it. Then you put in your institution's email address. That is the key for you to have access to all training free of charge at any time. So to have access to them, you first have to register. And now we're working on it to make it more user friendly. But for now, the first step is to go and create your account or to connect. As soon as your account is created, you can go back and connect, and then you have access to everything and you can browse through all of the courses. So that is the key. You need to get registered or connect to your account with your institution's email address. So the email address that you use at school. Perfect. Thank you. It's pretty simple. We like it like that. Okay, so now Mr. Now Stéphane, okay, I'm sorry, I keep saying Mr. Okay, Stéphane, question for you. Is the webinar section of, excuse me, I cannot see the question anymore. Don't worry, I know the question. Yeah? So are the webinars recorded and can we watch them after? Because if we're not available to see them live. Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. You're used to getting that question? Yeah, actually, I am used to it. So my colleagues that offer the webinar, they are the ones to decide if yes or no, they will be recording the webinar. But in a general sense or in a general manner, they do record it. They make it available, but not on the RÉCIT campus platform. They do it on their own website. So for example, if there is a webinar given on the field of languages, you will find it in the language website. So most of my colleagues do record their webinars and make it available on other websites. And I could see Christine nodding. Yes, I would say that we also do that, but it depends on the structure, the event structure. Sometimes if it's just sharing and discussions, and if it's very interactive, we're not necessarily going to record it. It may not necessarily be interesting to look at it later on, but we do share resources and presentations by recording them. Great. And a question that would be directed to the three of you. Are there any platforms where we can submit our needs in training, our training needs? Well, for our part, on the RÉCIT campus, all stakeholders that are connected and go to the self-study tab, they will see a small icon at the bottom, and it's a icon that says request for training, and that's where you can put in your suggestion. Also, you can also raise your hand and talk to the local advisor for RÉCIT and tell them, we don't have that type of training. Could we get that type of training? And I usually always ask my different advisors or counselors what need is emerging or what type of training do you think is needed right now? Yes, and on our part, we have weekly meetings with the Anglophone network, so we're really connected to what is going on with the local services. So sometimes we'll say, oh, there is already an offer of this type of training at the school board, or if not, then we will look at it more closely together and see what we can develop develop and design in terms of training. And also, people can contact us on the website and let us know their suggestions for further training. Same for us. We do get these types of questions often in our email. So info@org.quebec.com. Of course, we have we have a few trainings that are being created right now or developed right now, and we are very well connected to know where to redirect these people when there is existing resources with our partners. So if someone has a need of a certain type of training that is available with our partners, we are able to redirect them. And we're always open to suggestions, of course. Yes, actually, I do see that you work collaboratively together and you're not working in a type of silo context, or you're not competing with each other. And this brings me to the next question. Is there any training offered in English for Cadre21 and RÉCIT? I could go ahead. Some training has been translated. For example, I know that Marie-Soleil's training on sexual education was translated, which is not completely related to digital, but it is of news. It is in the news. And so there are 3 training sessions that were translated in English. And I know that they don't necessarily come to Campus RÉCIT because there are many English resources. We're next to the US and the English Canada. So there are a lot of resources available already in English. And on our part, officially, we only have one self-study that is offered in English on our platform. This is a training that was developed in partnership with the DPCP, the Criminal and Legal departments. And we have the Sexto response kit training that is offered in English, and it is something that was done in collaboration with the DPCP and with the schools and the school environment, the school community. So that is something, another question that we do get often. So we do have projects in those terms or in that direction to try to find some training that we could translate in English. We always look firstly in the ecosystem if there are any other training materials that are available in English before we do duplicate or copy anything. So what we do is we first put the resources in French, and then if they have a digital request to have it in English, they can also give us their comments in English, and the process is really easy and to follow. It's pretty streamlined, and it works well. So for us, sometimes people will participate in our training in English, and sometimes they'll ask questions in French. And we do offer French training for second language training. So even like today, we had the Microbit training, we did it in French. So we do collaborate with the Francophone sector and the RÉCIT International Services to offer training, either a bilingual training or a French training. Great. So you have well complemented the information. Some participants a participant had missed the first minutes of your presentation, and she wanted to know if you offered training or resources in French. And I see now that it effectively might be the case. Okay, great. So that's about it for the questions. If you have any other questions, my dear participants, you will have access to the coordinates of our 3 partners here, so you can send your question directly to them. So the goal here today first was to get to learn more about the different organizations, and then to see what is the offer in terms of digital pedagogy or digital learning. And we also have given some solutions to know how to dive into the continuous or ongoing training and in this the school area. So whether you are in your first year of teaching or you've been there for a while, I invite you to go and look at the different material that is available for you for coaching and support. For those of you who were not here today, I remind you that this will be made available to you on the YouTube Ministère de l'Éducation channel. It'll be made available in French and English. So thank you very much for your participation. Have a nice rest of your day. Thank you.
Bonne poursuite tout le monde.
Merci.
Bravo, Frédéric.
Journée.
Merci. Bonne journée à vous. Hein. C'était bien agréable de collaborer avec vous.
Super.